kick, pat, punch, boom, take down.
Welcome you guys to another fun segment here on Mad Media TV. And as you guys can see, I am getting my karate chopping skills on with Sensei Jeff. And we're here at his Traditional Shotokan Karate and Adult Kickboxing Academy, where he teaches a variety of martial arts to not only just kids, but adults as well. And Sensei Jeff is making such a huge impact on this community. He has the most influential and inspiring stories, and later on we're going to be hearing more about testimonials and the impacts that he's made on each student that has walked through those doors. And I'm so excited to dive right into it, so you guys definitely want to stick around for this. Sensei Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. It's a huge pleasure. You know, we were here earlier hearing all these testimonials. It got emotional. We're going to dive into all of that. And honestly, it blew my mind. So thank you so much for literally blessing me with your presence right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. And obviously we are here at your dojo where you teach a variety of classes of martial arts to adults and kids. And this is more than just a martial arts school, as you and I both know. And of course, we're going to dive into all of that. But before we get into all of that, you teach a style of martial arts, a style of karate, yes. Shotokan.
Shotokan.
So for those who don't know, can you explain what Shotokan is?
Shotokan Karate is a direct martial arts. I started out with Kempo Kung Fu, and I was doing great in it. But the dojo that I was involved in, half of it was Kung Fu, half of it was karate. So I'm watching these guys in karate, and it was like, pop, 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 get it done. And I came up in a time where I didn't want to be pretty with my martial arts. I wanted to be effective. So Shotokan Karate is one of the traditional arts. It's one of the basic arts, but it's extremely effective. And I wanted to be effective coming up in the world at that time.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been practicing Shotokan or just martial arts in general?
Whoa.
Going way back in time here, right?
I've been doing martial arts for 42 years.
Wow.
42 years I've been training. I've been involved since I was 15 years old. I started teaching myself how to kick from a book that I got at the library that I never returned. I forgot all about that book. A friend of mine, Richard Holdness, came in one day to the dojo, and he was standing right here and he started crying. I said, Rich, why are you crying? He said, Jeff, I remember when you started with that green book. You couldn't stop kicking with that green book. And from there on, you owned the school. And 15 is when I started, when I had the book. 17 is when I took formal lessons. I went to the rank of brown belt in Kung Fu. And then I switched over to Shotokan Karate. And if somebody asked me, what do you do? I said, Shotokan Karate until I die. I've been exposed to different forms of martial arts. I've trained with different people, but a lot of people that have different effective styles, they've all started off traditionally with Shotokan Karate. And Shotokan Karate was art that was in Okinawa in the 50s. It really came from Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu is a killing art, but what happened was a gentleman by the name of Gishin Funakoshi, he decided to make it more mainstream and teach kids karate. So that's when things were broken down. So karate has 3 different levels. It's a very basic level in terms of movements. It can be a very effective in terms of hurting, and it can go to a different level in terms of maiming. So there's different levels. So in order for it to be introduced to children, they brought it down to a basic level.
Right.
I don't know if that answers the question.
No, that's actually very informative and educational for me, because I didn't know how the breakdown was. So thank you for literally breaking it down for me. No pun intended. But obviously we're here at your dojo. We're here at your Shotokan Karate School, right? You caught that, right?
Okay.
So we're here at your Shotokan Karate School. And in your own words, what makes this school stand out and different from other karate schools?
when I first opened up this school, I second mortgaged my house. And I took money out and I bought property, but also I had a vision to run my own school. And at the time, everybody thought I was crazy because the way this block was divided, it was a hardware store and they cut it up. And I said, I'm gonna start teaching karate on Merrick Boulevard. And the rent initially was $1,800. And they were like, Jeff, are you crazy? No, I'm not crazy. And what happened was, at the time I initially tried to teach, I was teaching karate in the church. And it got very interesting. I was a major contributor to youth programs. I always was faithful with my tithes. And what happened was, I kind of outgrew the space. So I opened up the dojo. I was granted permission to teach karate in the church by a gentleman by the name of Pastor Anthony Medley. He was the youth director at the time, and karate and Adventism was unheard of. So I was like, I'm a Christian, I want to teach as a Christian. So when I opened the dojo, I had 7 pastors come from the Northeastern Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and they prayed for every wall, every floor, every tile. 7 pastors came in, and I said I wanted my dojo to be a dojo of inspiration in the community. I was a young cop, and I was involved in a lot of stuff. And one of the saddest things was arresting a lot of young people. And one day I said, what could I do to give back? Karate was what I offered. Everybody wanted to do karate. Kids, all of them, but it went from a kid program, a Christian program, a community program, an adult program, a kickboxing program, and it just grew. And for years, I actually stayed away from teaching adults. At one time, I had 40 adults in one class, and they became lawyers, doctors, nurses, psychologists, got married. They were all stuck in between, but they were so motivated after training karate that they went back and they started excelling their lives. The only problem was I got so close to them. When they all left, it kind of brought me down. And I kind of promised I ain't teaching adults anymore. I didn't teach adults almost 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And now I teach adults kickboxing. I have certain few select adults that I teach karate because the world has changed. People talk about discipline like it's something in a comic book, but not many people apply discipline in their lives anymore. So to put yourself in a position that forces you to confront yourself and be disciplined is not always a beginner's choice by most adults. So I'm very selective on who comes inside my dojo. And like when a woman called me today, she asked me, she was calling me inquiring about prices and stuff. And I said, ma'am, I gotta be very honest with you. If you don't have an immediate goal or a goal, because I follow journeys, I become a part of journeys. So if you don't have a specific goal that I can attach myself onto and not just teach you martial arts self-defense, but actually ride with you to help you achieve a goal, I'm probably not the right school for you. I'm very selective. Like
Right.
I don't have the energy anymore just to entertain anymore. If there's not a purpose of what we're doing, I'm not. I'm very protective of this environment.
And you mentioned you were a cop for a number of years, and I know you had a very extensive career in law enforcement. So how, before starting the school, how did maybe that overlap? Like how did that overlap, or how did you transition from that career into starting this school?
That's a great question. I've spent 25 years in law enforcement. I'm a retired NYPD sergeant. I'm a retired city commissioner for the city of New York. And I built my business while I was a cop. Because what happened was, it was in 1990s when I started teaching maybe 10 years after. And I was always very active. I fought in the police karate team for 3 years. I was undefeated with corrections best. I fought their best. And, you know, at that time, karate was very big. It was a big part of my life. I competed. I did a lot of competitions. A lot of people knew me. And I handled myself in the street. And it was a big boost for me. It was a strong outlet for me. And it was a strong saving grace for me in the street. There were times I was surrounded by 3 or 4 people. I put them all on the floor. At the blink of an eye. I was involved in a lot of, the way law enforcement is now is a little different. Back in my time, it was very hands-on. And it wasn't just hands-on in terms of being an officer. It was hands-on in the street. You told a guy to get against the wall. The guy turned around, picked his hands up and say, I don't want to tell you exactly what they would say, but it wasn't like the movies. So I've been in life-threatening situations. I've been in very dangerous situations, and the confidence of training in martial arts and being so active for so many years gives you a certain level of peace. When you're in front of somebody that's violent, you don't react like most people do because you already know what to do.
Right.
So you have more of a sense of calm, and it's helped me. And actually, that was one of the things that helped me, what got me actually noticed to be a city commissioner. Because at the time I was a sergeant inside of a court building, and a guy didn't take his meds. And he came to pay a bill for $400, and he came with the money. But nobody told him that he also had to pay a $100 surcharge. And he borrowed the money from somebody, and I found out later he was on medicine. And it was 1 o'clock, and he was supposed to take his second dosage at 12. So what happened was, when he started losing it, somebody ran in my office and said, we got a guy going crazy in the courtroom. So I walked in the courtroom where all the bosses were there, and I said, everybody out. I clapped my hand. I said, let me get everybody's attention. Everybody get out. And everybody left. And I sat down because he was very erratic. And I sat down and I said, listen, man, tell me what happened. And he explained to me. I said, well, you act in a certain way where you got to go to the hospital. And he said, I'm not going to the hospital. So I'd say, well, that either means you're going to hurt me or I'm going to hurt you. And I would always say, psychologically, it means you're going to hurt me. And I'd pause, or I'm going to hurt you. And I convinced him to put handcuffs on, go to the hospital. And they thought it was amazing. And one of the commissioners said, that was amazing. I said, no, that's basic police work. Because I was the cop that when a person that was emotionally disturbed on the other side of the precinct, and I was in my sector, the boss would call me and say, Jeff, can you come inside? We got an issue. So I was very hands-on in my communication. I was training and stuff, and I was always ready. If you flinched, then I would respond and put you on the floor and cuff you. So it put me in a position where God opened up one door from another door to another door to another door, because I was able to handle myself. And people think of karate as just violent, but the amount of confidence that it gave in my life, the work ethic that it gave me. I have a sister that's a lawyer. I have a brother that he was supposed to be an actuary. I have a sister in a post office. I've been blessed because of my work ethic. Right. Karate teaches you not to give up. Mm-hmm. It teaches you when somebody doubts you, you take it to a different level and you prove it, not just to the 1th power, to the 10th power that, yeah, I can get it done. Mm-hmm. So you can tell by my personality that karate's been very influential. So that's my gift to what I do. And there's so many different kids now that are doctors, lawyers, sanitation detectives. There's so many people that have come through me. Mm. I had a call from a guy the other day. I hadn't heard from him in 10 years. And I said, how's your daughter, Alicia? She said, well, she's at the biomedical program at Sophie Davis. Well, I said, well, so's my son. And she said, Sensei, I don't expect any different. I said, give all the glory to God. Mm-hmm. And he said, what you've been doing in this community, not just with my daughter, the same year she graduated, the valedictorian, he was your student. So, I'm getting goosebumps when I talk about it, because there's so many different stories and testimonies. Yeah. I could tell you about so many different things, but
And we
That's
see
my
it.
gift.
We see it, and honestly, like, I commend you for it all, because we've seen it, people coming in here talking about you, how you've impacted their lives, and you are literally one of the most influential people in this community, and probably one of the most influential people I've met in my lifetime, you know? So, and it's funny you mentioned that earlier too, you know, about the discipline portion of, you know, karate and everything, because, you know, I hear it all the time, and, you know, I've seen the movies too. Kids want to go, you know, take karate lessons, you know, just so they could, you know, kick some butt or whatever. But they don't talk enough about just it's more than just throwing punches and kicks.
You know, the instructor has a lot to do with it. The way I think, you know, I could teach anybody to kick and punch, but to see somebody believe in themselves and take their life to a different level, I'm telling you, there's nothing more rewarding to actually train somebody and see them take off. And, you know, one of the gentlemen that spoke, one of the black belts, I had a meeting with them a couple of weeks ago. And some of them have had challenges, you know, been on the spectrum, different things. And I said to them, you all have become sharks in this dojo. But you better be sharks outside of this dojo. I'll drop every single one of you, because I don't need you sharks in here. I need you to take that shark mentality out there, because I reserve the right to love you but let you go. So the way I think, I'm not selfish. And, you know, all the different people that I've come, you'd say, well, how come we don't have people teaching from? Because I encourage people to be their best. And if your best is outside, your best is outside. If you're with me for 5, 10 years, it's a blessing. As long as I know that I had a piece of you. You know, I saw a lady a year ago. She's a nurse at Linden Church. And I said, what happened to your son? And this child went to Purple. He was brilliant. He was brilliant. And he got accepted to a school on a scholarship in Manhattan. It was like $20,000 to go to the school that they paid for, that the parents didn't have to pay for.
Wow.
I said, what's he doing now? He just got married. I said, where did he go to college? She said, Yale.
Wow.
And I said, I'd like to think a piece of me walked through those halls at Yale, because every time somebody asks me for a interview for a child, or they ask me to write a recommendation for a child, I tell them, I promise you, whoever that child is, he's going to make your institution a better place. And I don't say it as a cliche. I know what God has done with me to do with them. And I mean, you know, to hear people talk to me tonight, to be involved in so many different places where people give me accolades, it's a blessing. Because a lot of people that started, they're not here anymore. So to be alive and see people grow, and, you know, one said, you know, I can't wait till I bring my other child, my other little one. You know, first thing comes to my mind is, I might not be alive by that thing. You said you got a 3-year-old. You know, life ain't promised to nobody, you know. But that was the mistake that I made. The mistake that I made was I got too good at what I did. So people, that sounds crazy, but that's what people come for. Where's Jeff Hunt? Where's Sensei Hunt? And I'm like, but I've had other instructors here that were great. You know, my last instructor, Shamark Anderson, he was great. But after 10 years, he was with me 10 years, he moved on and started his life. What do you do? Just, you're grateful for them moving on and becoming productive citizens and doing something good with their lives.
And that's such a, like, I feel like that's obviously such a rewarding feeling that you have, like, being that part of that person's success and into the real world and having them flourish and everything. And I know you obviously teach adults and kids, so I'm sure you get all students with all kinds of personalities, you know, whether it's breaking them out of their shell or just, you know, telling them to kind of like
anger
focus.
anger management, focus.
Right?
And it's funny because I'm pointing to something. I have stars. Every time they read 5 books, they get a star. So if you came earlier, you see the kids with stars all over them. The woman that spoke, her son was sitting right there. You just saw honor roll patches, honor, because they show me the report cards. So once you show me a report card, you make honor roll, you get a patch. So when you give a kid a patch, it's just a patch, but it's a badge of honor when they walk inside. And I've been to tournaments where a guy says, Sensei, what is that? What is the stars for? Reading books. What's the honor roll? They show me the report card. I'm gonna borrow that. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. You got them coming in here. We train them. They gotta be better people. They gotta be intellectual people. They gotta be competitive. When she talked about that child, Demir, he was addicted to games. I said, I know how to deal with him. Let's get it. And you know, I've had teachers sit in that chair where she's sitting, and they sit down and they studying my unorthodox way of teaching. And I'll call them right out. I said, I know you're checking out my techniques, but don't worry, it only works for me. I do, excuse me. I do what works.
Right.
Like you have a totally different personality than she does. Right. I know how to deal with you. I knew how to deal with you as a younger person, and you're still young. I know how to deal with her. I know how to deal with him because I understand it, and I have 2 degrees in marketing. I got a skill set from law enforcement that most people don't know and don't understand. So I know how to become very personable. I know how to sell. I've been in leadership positions. I've been in all different types of training, effective communication, you know, leadership courses. So it's a challenge when somebody's in front of me. If they give me the opportunity to work with them, what I can do to encourage them to be their best. And if they understand the power they have to be their best, I did my job. Even if they don't get a black belt, they have the black belt mindset. Like I was telling the kids earlier, it's ideal to have a black belt and a black belt mindset. But if worse comes to worse and you don't get your black belt, as long as you got that mindset,
Someone here.
I did my job.
And do you feel also being a father contributed to that, to handling kids and just, you know, of all ages?
It did. It did. And my daughter's a black belt. Both of my sons are brown belt. But my son's a pre-med student. My other son is an honor roll. And my daughter, you know, she graduated cum laude, Howard. She's getting an opportunity for this master's program. It's a year accelerated program that they approached her because of her grades. And I got to be very honest with you. My daughter, I was hard on my daughter. If I had a chance to do it again, I might have done it differently because I was hard on her because I was a cop. I was fighting. I was dealing with murderers and criminals all day, and I was frightened. So I was hard on her. I wanted her to be hard, and you know, she's good. She's great, and we still laugh about things now. But looking back at it, you know, when your girl's the first one, and you're involved in the different things that I was involved in, you know, you always want to be protective. And I was hard on her. I was hard on my boys because when you put your kid in a class with other kids and they know he's your kid, you can't be easy on your kid. You can't, well, you can do 10 push-ups, but you don't have to because you're my son.
Right.
Don't work like that. He did 10, you gotta do 15.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Like that, yeah.
So that was a difficult mix. If I had it over again, maybe I would have given them to somebody else to train. But so many different things happen. And in the character developmental years, you got to know who you're exposing your children to. You know, from ages 3 to 10, 11, you got to know what messages they're putting inside your child's head. So I was very protective, maybe a little overbearing at the time. And I thank God for my wife, because my wife was the educator. And whenever people compliment me on my kids, I tell them they got a good mother.
Oh.
They got a good mother. I did my part. My wife is very educated. She's a principal. She's a PhD. You know, I got my PhD from the streets. I got my bachelor's from Baruch and my PhD. I have a lot of experience, and I have a lot of common sense experience. So we did a great balance. You know, haven't always saw eye to eye, but when she made a point, most of the time I listened.
There are so many things that I can say about him. I will be here all day probably. I'm also a former kickboxing student, and can't practice anymore because I got hurt, and I do regret that as well. But, you know, I'm here for my son, and I don't want to choke up and, you know, cry, because he has done so much for my family, for myself, pushing me, motivating me. Now in my tender years, I've gone back to school, and he's actually been instrumental in my studies. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of my family and myself as well. Thank you, Jeff.
I've been coming here for about 8 or 9 years. I originally started in the summer camp. My mom and dad, summertime 2015, 2016, they were walking down the block. They saw Sensei in here with a whole bunch of kids just running around, going crazy, throwing balls, playing around in the dojo on the karate floor. And they signed me up. And the first day, I knew I wanted to be here. At first, I didn't know it was a dojo. It was just like the warm welcome that Sensei had. And then once I found out that it was a karate school, I'm like, I want to do this, because I've originally did martial arts when I was in elementary school. So I've always had that foundation of martial arts. So I wanted to continue that. And once I enrolled in the karate class, it was on from there. I just kept skyrocketing. And Sensei has always taught us, this is not an extracurricular activity. When you bring your child here, this is a lifetime commitment of hard work and dedication, not just in here, in life. Sensei has always taught us, no matter how many times you fall, you get back up and you brush it off and you keep going, because that's the way you love yourself. We've been saying that for about a month now. We've always been taught to love ourselves, no matter how hard life hits us, no matter how hard we fall, we get back up and we keep going. And I've been teaching for about almost a year now. And along with Sensei, him bringing me on this floor is a blessing to teach these young kids doing the same passion as he does. It's amazing to see these young kids grow every day. And I'm still a student as well, and I'm still growing as a black belt as well, and still growing in life. He's always taught me to just keep going, and the opportunities that come, he has blessed all of us with a lot of opportunities, not mentally, physically, emotionally, and just spiritually. Because as soon as you walk into this dojo, it's protected. As soon as you leave this dojo, you're protected. No matter where you are protected. Because when we come in, we pray. When we leave, we pray. So no matter where you are, you're protected. Sensei is always protected, no matter what. His family, our families, everybody. This is a community. We are all one.
Tune in next Tuesday, August 27th at 8 p.m. on the following social media networks.
Hey everybody, it's DJ with Mad Media TV, where we highlight the most inspiring people and their stories. I want to reintroduce you to Sensei Jeff Hunt, founder of his Traditional Shotokan Karate and Kickboxing School. Now, in this part 2 of his spotlight, we are going to highlight his life story, milestones, and the lives that he's been changing over many, many years. So be sure to stick around because on this upcoming segment, it's about to get real. So get your tissues ready.
Tune in Tuesday, August 27th for part 2 at 8 p.m. on the following channels. On Facebook, Mad Media TV LLC. On YouTube, at It's Mad Media TV. On Instagram, It's Mad Media TV. And also on our website, madmediatv.com.